our live version of Hill of Justice,
Mhm.
as we usually and normally do. If anybody out there can hear us and see us, give us a thumbs up or even comment on the chat and let us know that you can definitely you have some clarity and particularly our voice as we move along. So we'll go ahead and give that another 20 seconds for any of the audience members to go ahead and do that. In the meantime, let's see what we have here. Gentlemen, welcome. How y'all doing? Good?
Good, good,
Good.
man. How you
Good, good,
doing?
good,
How's
good.
it going?
Pretty good on my end. And we got the chat up and going. I'm taking a look at our upload. Looks pretty good right now.
Hmm.
And so everything seems well. Okay, let's begin this. Okay. 8 years old, a backseat, 4th of July, 2020. A
Hmm.
city on edge, and a volley of bullets at a barricade that should have never existed whatsoever.
No.
Tonight, the question that we're going to ask, the three of us are going to ask, is this. And
Hmm.
still, a lot of Atlanta hasn't asked properly who is responsible when the city lets chaos rule? A jury says Julian Conley is, right? But is that the whole truth? Or is that just the verdict? As you know, I'm Jerome Hill. With me is retired Sheriff Victor Hill. And tonight we have a special guest with us, Xcon Media. Gerald, please
Yes.
welcome to Hill of Justice. And
Appreciate it.
tell us a little bit about your podcast because I want people to know what's good with you over there.
Basically my podcast is it's at Xcon Media on every social media platform. And what I try to do is steer people away from anger, bad anger issues, crime, just everything, because I went through all that. I went to prison. I did 16 years. I was in from 1998 to 2014, and I got out. January will be 12 years. I've been free. Haven't even caught. Well, I caught a speeding ticket, but it got dismissed. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But that's about it. In July of 2020. Speaking of July 2020, that's what the topic is tonight. But in July 2020, I received a full pardon from the state of Georgia, so which is supposed to be an official
Congratulations.
forgiveness.
Right.
So yeah, once I got out, I hit the ground running, and my channel is just all about trying to make change in the community. You know what I'm saying? If I have out of 100 people, if one person listen to me and take heed to what I'm saying, that's one less person that might climb through your relatives window one night. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
that's basically what it is. Xcon Media on all social media platforms.
And we have his social media stuff, particularly his YouTube, on the description below. So please feel free to go ahead and take a look at the link and hit that. You won't be disappointed. Go ahead and to subscribe. We also have retired Sheriff Victor Hill with us, looking nice and rested. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
You look
I
well.
am
You look
rested.
well.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, thank you. That's a compliment coming from my baby brother. You know.
Right, 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 right. So we're gonna go ahead and start piecing this all together, and just to give everybody a typical frame of work, and then you guys can go into the minutia of what's going on because you two live this in your home state right there. So
Hmm.
in July 4th, 2020, less than 3 weeks after police shot Rashard Brooks outside of Wendy's, and just to give people context about what was going on there, Rashard Brooks was the individual that had fell asleep while he was in line in Wendy's in the
Hmm.
car.
Hmm.
Police came. They were trying to approach him, try to do a sobriety check on him, and so on and so forth. And there became a confrontation. The officer's
Hmm.
taser was taken. He was running away with it. He turned back, I guess, to use the taser or whatnot. He got shot twice in the back, and it caused, from that point on, um, turmoil in Atlanta. There were a lot of protests and so on and so forth.
Brother,
Hmm.
can
So,
I stop you?
yes,
Can I
sir.
stop you there?
Yeah.
That happened in the midst of another riot that already occurred in Atlanta.
That's correct. Right. That's
Right,
correct.
right. So remember that. So that wasn't, there was already a situation going on. The city was unrest, and I'll bring something to that in a second.
Yeah, I had
Mhm.
But
that next,
yeah, go ahead,
talking
go
about
ahead,
it,
go
but you
ahead.
already killed it on that one. So
Okay, go
yeah,
ahead,
that's
go ahead.
no, that was good. And so this brought up, and I want you to add, I want you to talk about this. We were talking about a protest zone that happened to go ahead and organically come alive, and then it just had a life of its own that I want you guys to talk about. And we're talking about armed civilians and makeshift barricades and so on and so forth. So that's what was going on July 4th, what the impetus of a whole bunch of things were happening on. But I want to get
Mhm.
your both of your takes about that situation and what actually created a further tragedy later on.
Absolutely. So,
Mhm.
you know, I guess so everyone could get things in context. Okay. At that time, I was the sheriff of Clayton County. So we got this riot that erupts downtown. And that riot happened over one of the probably, it was a very, very bad scene out of a situation where we saw a police officer have his knee on a man's neck.
Mhm.
And as a result, there was protest here in Atlanta. So to lead up to that, to where Gerald comes in, is this: it all stemmed from that particular riot that started first before Rashad Brooks got shot rather.
Right.
And the sad part about it is that riot should have never happened. I'll never forget. And I write about this actually in my book. There's a chapter called Atlanta Riots. And it's sad when I think about what I wrote and now what we're dealing with now. But it was a situation where it started off peaceful. And next thing we look, there's a man standing on top of a police car. And next thing you look, he has something, he's catching it on fire. Now, before that even happened,
Mhm.
the police chief was walking around doing the community police and feel good thing. And somebody throws a water bottle at her. She ignores it and she keeps going. I've said it before, I'll say it again. That's when everything should have got shut down.
Mhm.
But of course, politicians are weak and they were afraid that, okay, if we do that, it'll look like we're not opening up for free protest. Remember, there's a difference between protests and rioters. Those are two different people. Protesters are trying to have a voice, rioters just want to see the city burn.
Mhm.
When they let that go unchecked, I already knew it was going to go downhill from there. I was watching on TV, it was on live.
Mhm.
The other thing you got is that the police didn't even have riot gear. They weren't prepared. The political leaders at that time wanted them to just stand there and not look aggressive. So it's not that Atlanta police wasn't capable of handling it. They could. I know those guys. They weren't allowed to handle it. They were handcuffed by the politics. So next thing you look, a guy's on top of a car. The next thing you look, he sets the car on fire. Then everything just spirals out of control from there because no one had the strength or the foresight to stop it right there in his heels. Stop it, not to stop a protest, but stop it for the safety of the city and the protesters. Because
Mhm.
when the rioters show up, the protesters get hurt too. Well, time goes on. The mayor gets up, gives some motherly speech about I can't protect my child and all that other stuff, which I knew that wasn't going to work. And then next thing you look, things really get out of control. Then finally, I get this phone call from the chief of police, and she says, "Listen, I need some help." And I said, "What you need?" And I basically, there was agreement. I said, if I send my guys down there, I'm not sending them down there to stand up and just get watch things happen or things happen to them. If they come, they're gonna handle business. She said she understood, and they went and they successfully quelled that. The next day, we were asked to come back. I sent the guys back down there.
Mhm.
They did a good job. Everybody's doing a good job. Things were under control. Then there's this other incident where the police tried to stop these college kids in a car. College kids are non-compliant. They drive off. The
Yeah.
police go up. They try to get them out. I wasn't aware of it till the next day, but I get this call, and at this time now, someone else is in charge because well, no, I wouldn't say someone else in charge. The assistant police chief is the one that called, and he said, "Hey, look, there was an incident last night. You got anybody I could give a call to or whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah, my captain was there. You can talk to him." I had no idea what they were getting ready to do, but then they give the order to lock up all of these cops, saying it's excessive force. Okay. Then after that happens, so now we're on this thing of let's lock up the cops. Let's not be too hard on the people destroying the city, the people who are disruptive, but let's lock up the cops because there was this national thing about the police. Now we respect the fact. I don't think there was a cop out there that appreciated what we saw, what the nation saw. But think about it. You're now attacking every other cop for what one cop did. All right. I pulled my guys out of there because I knew if Atlanta was locking up their own cops by order of city council, do the mine. So I was like, come on back because we don't need to be involved in that. The next thing you look, we get Rashad Brooks. After Rashad Brooks, there's protests in that area, which appears to be pretty peaceful. But then one day I get a call from a friend of mine that lives in that area, and he says, "Hey, did you know there's a road check out here near Wendy's?" And my reply is, "Well, that's good. The police can have control. What's the problem?" He said, "No, I didn't say the police." He says, "Just some thugs out here with rifles. They're doing a road check." And I said, "Did you see this? Or did someone tell you this? Are you sure about that?" He said, "Check your phone. I just took a picture." So I look at the picture and I said, "Hey, let me make a call." So now at that time, now we got a new police chief because the female police chief stepped down because of all the politics. So I called him, and the chief at that time name was Rodney Bryant. And I said, "Hey, listen, did you know there's some thugs with rifles holding a road check near the Wendy's?" He said, "No, I didn't know." I said, "Check your phone. I just forwarded you the picture." And I said, "Listen, I'm not trying to get involved in your politics or anything like that." I said, "I don't know your relationship with the mayor. I know you came out of retirement to handle this." I said, listen to me carefully. I said, either she's gonna let you run the streets or the criminals are gonna run the street. If she's not gonna let you control these streets, it's probably not worth it. To his credit, he said, no, I got this. I'm gonna handle it. I later received a call from a friend of mine that's on a SWAT team and said, "Hey, we got the orders. We're going to get ready to hit those guys on that's holding that road check." I said, "Good." One day goes by, 2 days go by, and I realized I'm not hearing anything. I didn't get a call, and I was like, "I wonder what happened." So I called my friend on the SWAT team and I said, "Hey, what happened? Did y'all take care of those guys?" He said, "No, the chief was told to stand down." I said, "Stand down?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, we'll find somebody to talk to them." So these guys were allowed to stand and do a road check, decide who comes through and who not. Thugs with rifles. And City Hall, we'll get into that later. That's what he used the term, City Hall, told the chief, stand down. In other words, let these guys control the area. We don't want any problems or we don't want anything. Now, I'm going to get into that part later. So now let's get to my man, Gerald from Xcon Media. He and I met under some interests. So he reached out to me when he heard I was running for Congress. I was on the show. Uh, Very good interview for those who would go back and watch it. He's a guy we should be interviewing him about his life alone. That was fascinating. But I didn't realize that he was a witness in this incident, that he actually went through there. And if it wasn't for him, they would have never caught the guy that they just convicted. So with that, let me hand the ball to you, and then you can run with it from there. Go ahead.
Wow. Man, that at that time I was working for MARTA in 2019, 20, and 21. I had just finished when I started at MARTA. I was done with trucking. Like I had just lost my trucking business, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to see a truck no more. So I decided to serve my community, by driving a bus, and I did it for over 2 years. So I guess as I was coming down prior and getting ready to make a left on University, I was driving the 55 55, it might be 55 Jonesboro or something like that. Now keep in mind, I was one of these drivers that I didn't have a set route. I didn't work at one garage. There's 3 different garages, right? I want you to keep in mind that the 55, I've never ran out of that garage anything other than go to that garage, they need you. That particular day I drove the 55, I had never driven it. That is the only time on July the 4th, 2020 was the only time that I drove that route. So when I make the left on University, I'm seeing the barricades, the roadblock, and everything. They're not letting anybody through. So I proceed to start tapping my horn, going in reverse, trying to get out of there. But a few people walked up to the bus. A couple of folks passed by with their AR-15s and everything, and Mr. Conley walked up to the bus. And that is the only reason, because it was 4 shooters. And the only reason why he was caught is because he wasn't dressed like the rest of them. The rest of them had all black. He had on a red shirt with white letters, some blue jeans, little bag coming across his chest, AR-15, had a do-rag on, had some plaits. But the bus camera actually caught him and caught a good shot of him. And I was told that was the only reason why. They even said it in closing arguments at the trial. That was the only reason why he was caught. But they let me through, and I later found out that I was the only bus that they was letting through that entire night. They wasn't letting cars, people that lived in the next block, they wasn't letting them through. Right before Lil Secoriea had got shot, they showed him and 4 other guys stopping a former police officer from coming through, him and his wife from coming through. They got all them on camera, pointing, AR-15s and everything at this couple, and that was probably maybe 30 minutes or so, 20, 30 minutes before the Jeep came through and Secoriea got shot. But
Let me ask you a question. You said they
yeah.
weren't letting anybody through. So did they have a conversation with you? Did they ask you, hey, what are you doing? And say, hey, you could go past. How did they make the decision to let you through?
Now, one guy, like, listen, I'm not confrontational. It was my bus, and my responsibility is to protect everybody on that bus. So I'm watching barricade. I'm watching people, um, on the sidewalk in front of the Wendy's, up and down the street. Everybody got firearms. Which is cool. Second Amendment rights, whatever. But I didn't want to put anybody in danger. They look, I'm finna back the bus up and leave. So one guy walked up to the bus. He was like, "Nah, you a part of the community. We're gonna let you through." Um, and a guy in a wheelchair wanted to get on the bus. So I'm in the street, kind of like turned sideways. At this point, I got the whole street locked off because I'm trying to turn around. I'm not getting confrontational with you. I'm finna turn around and go back the other way. But they stopped me. The guy in the wheelchair got on the bus. It was 2 people that just got convicted. I don't remember the other guy's name, but they caught him walking on side of the bus as well. And
McKinley.
he had on all black, huh?
McKinley.
Yeah, McKinley, and he played out for. He wasn't charged in the murder, but he was charged for, I think, aggravated assaults on the
Correct.
McCoys, and they gave him. He played out for 20, 40 to serve 20, which he's already been locked up for 5 years. So at the very most, he's gonna do 15 more years and then he'll be out. Um, and what they were trying to say in the trial, what Conley was trying to say, 9 days after she got shot, he was trying to say, "Hey, that was me. Y'all showing pictures of. I'm gonna turn myself in. I didn't shoot nobody. Blah blah blah, whatever." So he self-identified himself, and that pretty much helped the case. But it was because of the bus footage that he got caught
Right.
to begin with. So but a little bit about the story. After they aggravated assaulted the McCoys, it was a Jeep with Secoria's mom. Um Secoria was in the back seat and the boyfriend was in the driver's seat. And he didn't want to stop at the barricade. So he drove up on the hill, rode around the barricade, and as they was passing by, 4 armed people shot into the back of that like they were so organized that if I had a choice, everybody on that street would have been charged, because you can see that after the 4 people go to shooting, somebody else runs into the scene and start picking up shell casings.
Mm.
Like all this stuff is on video, but you can't identify anybody from the camera. That the angle that the state presented, but
Where was
once
that
they
camera
drove,
at? Was that camera on a?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know. Like it was just somewhere because they had cameras. I think it was on one of the stores,
Okay.
but they had cameras like strategically placed at the gas station, at the liquor store, um, a couple other spots. I don't know, but the footage is so bad you can't even really tell from a distance. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you'd have caught everybody else that was out there, but they never did, and I don't think that they ever will.
Why did the
Um,
gunfire erupt? Does
because
anyone
the
know?
Jeep drove with the boy, the boyfriend, he went up on the hill around
Barricade.
the barricade,
That's
and
what he
as he
did.
was passing by, Conley and 3 other people was firing into the Jeep as they're riding away. So the bullet went through the back of the Jeep, through the seat.
Hmm.
The state said it expanded because it had to go through so much, hit her in the back right shoulder, and it must have hit a major artery or something,
Hmm.
and she bled to death. They was trying to get her to the hospital to save her.
Hmm.
They couldn't. I think the boyfriend had drove the Jeep all the way to the hospital with flat tires and everything, because it was pretty riddled. I think they say the Jeep got hit probably about 10 or 12 times or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. It just was a sad situation, and for me, when they contacted me about it, they contacted me about it probably in 2020, and I didn't hear anything else about it until maybe a couple months ago. And it's like, listen, man, this is a little girl. One thing I do not like, I never liked it while I was in prison. I didn't like it before. I don't like it now. When it comes to the elderly, women, and these kids, I don't like it. So that it was my duty to get in there and protect, because my daughter is 10. You know what I'm saying? And I can't say what I do.
Mm.
I can't say what I would do on this live if that would have happened to my child, you know. Um and so, even at the trial, I met Miss Turner a couple of times, man. And I tell you, she's such a sweet woman. And I told, once she found out who I was, man, every time I seen her, it was a hug, and she just would not let me go. You know what I'm saying? That woman is so hurt, and she would never get over losing her only daughter.
Mm.
She won't never get over that. She is so messed up and hurt till it's not even funny. Um, and needless to say, the boyfriend and her, I don't even think they're together, and they shouldn't be, because to me, he escalated it. Okay, turn around and go back the other way. What you try to ride through the roadblock for? That's danger. You got to protect who in the car. Turn around, go the other way. And that was my whole purpose for trying to turn the bus around. But I got told I was part of the community, and they let me through, so I came on through. And They showed me video footage that I didn't see. That there was people on the sidewalk aiming AR-15s at the bus, and I didn't even know it.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you brought up some very, very legit points.
Me too.
So now is what we're gonna do. The unpleasant part.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna point some fingers and talk about who dropped the ball and why. Before we do that, to orientate everybody, Jerome, just show a couple of news clips so they can get a little bit of what happened then and a little bit about the trial.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that.
Devastating gun violence, and many of the victims were children. Here in Atlanta, 4 people were killed, including 8-year-old Secoriea Turner. She died just across the street from where Rayshard Brooks was killed by police weeks ago and where widespread protests broke out. Atlanta's mayor says it's not enough to protest against police violence. She wants communities to do more than that.
We've talked a lot about what we are demanding from our officers in our communities. We've protested, we've demonstrated, we've been angry, we've cried, we've demanded action. Well, now we're demanding action for Secoriea Turner and for all of the other people who were shot in Atlanta last night and over the past few weeks, because the reality is this: these aren't police officers shooting people on the streets of Atlanta. These are members of the community shooting each other. And in this case, it is the worst possible outcome. And there were 2 other people who were actually shot and killed last night and several others. Enough is enough.
Has waited more than 5 years for justice in this case. And our Daniel Wilkerson is live outside the Fulton County Courthouse with more on the verdict and the sentencing. And Daniel, I understand there was such an emotional reaction in the courtroom today.
Very emotional time, Jobina, yes, in the courtroom. What you could not see watching it online or on television was the audience. To the far right, facing the audience, you had the family of Julian Conley, and then elsewhere in the courtroom you had members of Secoriea Turner's family along with their supporters. Now, when the judge handed down the sentence, you could hear some of the members of the Turner family stomp their feet. I watched as others nodded in agreement.
We don't know if the jury found you responsible because they believed the state proved your bullet pierced Secoria's body or because they found you were a party to a crime. It does not matter. Secoria's parents are serving life sentences without their child. For Ms. Turner, a life sentence in which she relives trying to rescue her baby daughter, trapped in a seatbelt, asking for help, dying before her. Well, she screamed, "Please help, please someone help."
Now, Julian Conley was found guilty of murder, felony murder, aggravated assault. He was also found guilty of gun and gang-related charges and sentenced to life without parole plus 25 years. Now, Secoriea Turner's family, they spoke outside the courthouse after that sentence was handed down. We heard from her father. We also heard from the mother of Julian Conley, the man sentenced. She says that her son's attorney will be appealing the case. More from both sides, Jovina, coming up on CBS News Atlanta at 11.
Ooh, can I speak on this?
Yes, go ahead.
Listen, it's a sad situation on both sides. Nobody wins right here. They will never get their daughter back, and this brother is off the street for life. You know, and that's what I want to drive home to these people out here. Like, you gotta think about what you do before you do it, man. Man, I'm speechless right now because I mean, just seeing it all over again, man, it's crazy, man. Every person in prison doing a life sentence wish that they found something else better to do. And you never realize that until it's too late. Wow. But I'm gonna tell you like this. I heard one of the detectives, I think it was the lead detective. I think he probably was the fourth person on the stand, fourth or fifth person on the stand. And he said that it was an autonomous zone. Now I do not, both of y'all that did police work. I don't know what an autonomous zone is. That means, to me, that means that Keisha Lance Bottoms told them officers, told the police, leave them alone, stay out of there, don't go in there. And you know, me riding back and forth on the transit bus, there was no police, Martyr Police, APD, Fulton County, Clayton County. Nobody was there for I think a few days. And so when we talk about who accountability start with, let me tell you something. I think I heard you say this, and I heard a couple of other law enforcement. I believe I even heard I've heard it recently. When you let little stuff slide, this is what you get right here. You let the little things pass through and just let them do this and let them do that. Now we got an 8-year-old that is no longer with us, is never coming back, and another guy doing a life without parole. You know, I blame the city. I blame the city. Bottom line.
I agree with you. You know,
Yeah.
here's the part where the city can't outrun. They can't outrun that you had a protest zone with guns, barricades, zero or incoherent command whatsoever, allowed to harden for weeks. It wasn't like it was a day. This was going on for weeks. And then the vacuum, what creates there, just becomes all of a crime scene. Anybody who's not even in law enforcement would be able to see or predict this type of situation to come up. And yet our leaders did not. That's the tragedy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they didn't. They just let it happen, and then wanted to do something after. After, you know, Keisha Lance Bottoms calling for what about the preventative things that the city, the mayor of the city, and now she's running for the governor of the state.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You can't
No.
let that happen in any
No.
major city,
Right.
especially a dense major city. And
Yeah.
once you got armed civilians, you know, asserting their control, you know, risk spikes on every different level. And we see this in global politics, and we see this in the geopolitics of the world, that any
Mhm.
miscalculation can it could be misread, and then you got a international incident. And what you had here
Mhm.
was a city incident. And that's what
Mhm.
just happened. You know, a vehicle misread starts this whole trigger. But that was just a culmination of everything that went completely wrong. And it was just the last domino to this fact. So you got panic, hair triggered individuals who think that they're Rambo with weapons, with all types of bravado going out there. And then they,
Mhm.
of course, they call themselves thrown into whatever they were meant to kill. Let's just call it warning shots in any way. It was careless. So this is still, in my
Mhm.
opinion, you meant to kill. And so what you're doing
Mhm.
is this was a complete operational failure and letting the conditions exist. And you're just relying on hope that, oh, we hope that this won't happen or that won't happen. Brother, I'm sick of this. You can get it from there.
All right, let me be the bad guy for a change. No pun intended. Okay, first of all, this was a lot of politics that stink to high heavens. The truth of the matter is, right before all this happened, a news report came out that the mayor was on the short list to be vice president. Okay, so then you got all of this anti-police sentiment and let's lock up every cop we can. I'm not saying cops aren't supposed to get locked up, but I mean they should be locked up when they do something wrong. Those guys with the college kids didn't do nothing wrong. Those guys at Wendy's didn't do anything wrong.
Mhm.
You know, each one, I believe she was probably trying to make a name for herself and a name with that particular crowd that was anti-police. So when the thing happened with the college kids who were totally out of line, who totally shouldn't have been doing what they're doing and fleeing from the cops, refusing to open, the order was lock them up. Then when the guys happened at Wendy's, locked them up for murder. And you got all this politics going on, and then the DA is up for re-election. So the thing to do then is, hey, let's lock up all the cops. And it's interesting, and I've said this before, this is a classic example of what happens when you target the protectors instead of the criminals. So now you're sympathizing with criminals, you're colluding with criminals. Hey, it's okay. And you're making the cops out to be the bad guys. And these are the ones that are responsible for protecting you. Now, I'm not saying we should allow cops to get out of line. I didn't. There's a lot of cops I fired. There's a few I locked up. Okay. But when you criticize them every time they're put in a violent situation, and you can screw it that no matter what they do, even when they're following their policy, even when they're following their training, and you lock them up anyway, this is the type of confusion that you get. And not only do you get this, not only you locking up cops, but you also handcuffing them. You tell them, don't do this, don't do that, let them do this, let them do this, and this is what happens. It started from the very beginning. When the protest started, don't put on riot gear, just stand there, be nice, smile. And these thugs took over the city. Literally burned up about 13 police cars, destroyed businesses. It should have never happened. And what they're doing, and they did it to me, is they're prosecuting cops anytime they do something to prevent something. The thing is, oh, well, they hadn't done anything. Okay, nobody said they did anything at this moment, but they're showing potential to do something, so we got to prevent it. And state training says we can prevent it. Policy says we can prevent it. But then you get these type of politicians involved, and then you get the prosecutors, and you get a few judges, and then next thing you look, you prosecuting cops for preventing something from getting worse. So now you handcuff your police, and then you end up with a full-scale riot like what we did. Now you got the full-scale riot. Now you got these guys in a particular, like you said, they call it an autonomous zone, which I've never heard of and wouldn't comply with ever in my county. I would never give someone a zone where it's okay to commit crimes and take over, and we don't have control of it, because that's our job as the sheriff or the police, to control the area and control the crime. So you never give up territory to criminals, but that's what they did. So I concur with you that the city is at fault. I concur with you that if that order came from whoever, be it the former mayor, they're at fault. This is one of those cases, there's a lot of lawsuits out there. People try and sue the city every chance they get over everything, and more often than not, they're lying. I've been the victim of that, and probably still am to some degree, and that's another story. But in this case, they could subpoena me if they want to come testify at this case, because they're clearly liable. It clearly could have been stopped. And let me tell you who else is at fault. Nobody wants to hear this. The sheriff of Fulton County, he was not the one who's in office now. He wasn't the sheriff then. Let me tell you why I hold him at fault. The former sheriff, Ted Jackson. Okay. The law says that the sheriff has a duty to protect. It doesn't even say that about the police, but it says that about the sheriff, that the sheriff has a duty to protect. Nowhere in the law does it say, even if you're a sheriff somewhere where there's a county police or city police, that your responsibilities is no longer law enforcement. It's very clear the sheriff is the chief law enforcer, the chief officer of the court, and the chief jailer. Nowhere does it say 2 out of 3. And it clearly says the sheriff has a duty to protect. So if you're the sheriff and you know this is going on and you say, well, I'm not going to do nothing because that's in the city, then I hold him liable too. Because that meant you knew about something going on and you refused to take action. And well, that's the police problem. Then the police like, well, we don't want to do anything because if something happens, then it'll look like we're being too hard on criminals or whatever. And then as a result, you get an 8-year-old that died. Shortly after this, I'm in a meeting in my county with the county police and all the chiefs of the police. And the county police chief was speaking. And he was telling all the chiefs, hey, look, if y'all need anything from us, any type of help, we're going to come in and we're going to help you. He said, but listen, I understand the politics. If your mayor doesn't want us to come in, we'll stand down. And I said, stop 1 second. That goes for him. That don't go for me. I said, let me explain this to y'all real quick. If some thugs come in any city in my county, I don't give a damn if it's Riverdale, Forest Park, and they start holding a road check. I'm not asking no mayor's permission or your permission. It's going to end that day. It's going to end the hour I find out about it, because I'm going to activate SWAT and we're going to handle it. I'm going to let you know so you can come help us. But I'm not going to stand down because the mayor says, well, we don't want any problems. Because when you stand down and you allow these thugs to take control, this is what happens.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was quite a few. It was aggravated assaults out there. It wasn't just the murder. It was aggravating assaults.
It was.
Pointing a pistol. It was a whole lot of stuff. And the barricade. Okay, nobody's saying don't peacefully protest. Nobody's saying don't exercise your First and Second Amendment rights. It's a way to do that. But you have to do it peacefully. But when they started committing crimes and they set up an illegal roadblock, who are you protesting when you set the roadblock up? If you trying to protest against the police, that you setting a roadblock up to block people from getting back and forth to their house, you didn't accomplish nothing. You was a part of the problem.
Absolutely.
So I just don't understand what they were even thinking when they did it, and they was doing it for days at a time. And it just so happened that they was already on 10 when the McCoys had passed through. They was already on 10 then. So it was easy once that Jeep came around for them to shoot into the Jeep. The city is totally at fault, and they will the Turner's lawyer gonna reach out to me, and I definitely tell them what you said, because it'll definitely help. So
yeah, and that's one civil trial that I believe in our help, because like I told you earlier, I called the police chief and told him this was happening. He didn't even know, and said,
how
"Hey,
you not know? He right
right.
around the corner."
Well, yeah, that's listen, that's what the man told me.
That's one thing I could say. That's
Yeah,
one
you're
thing
right.
I could say about you. That's why I voted for you, because I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, 1 a.m., 5 p.m. I don't care what time it was. Victor Hill was always on the scene. Period. You see that car pulling up. I don't care what's going on. People don't understand that when you a sheriff, that's how you got to operate. You don't sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you got to lead from the front. You can't lead from the desk. You can't lead. You got to be out there on the front line so you can see exactly what's going on. So, there's no way. Listen, man, a lot of these people I know, a lot of them I considered friends. Maybe we still are friends. Maybe we not. Who knows? Who cares? But this is dead wrong. That should not have been allowed to happen. It should, the minute that, I'm sure someone had to call the police at some point. My friend that called me, you know what? I forgot to say this. I called the friend that called me. I said, hey, did y'all call the police? He said, I ain't doing nothing. That's why I'm calling you. And that's when I called the police chief.
I forgot to tell you, the McCoys, they called the police. It was a lot of people calling the police that night. They wasn't coming. They wasn't coming. They did not come until that little girl got shot. They was not coming. That came out at trial too. They were called. People were calling them. People were dialing 911. They didn't come. Yeah, they didn't. And as a result, a lot of the evidence got tainted, because, like I said, the shell casings got picked up. Yes, they actually show somebody, not even one of the shooters. They show somebody on the sidewalk running out there, picking up the shell casings. Ridiculous. And far as I'm concerned, whether they had a gun or not, you out there picking up the shell casing, you should have got the party to the crime charge. If they could have caught them, that's a party to the crime.
Oh yeah,
that's
Oh,
They get charged with
absolutely. There's a
murder.
law against that.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're trying to tamper with the crime scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
it's a sad day when you got armed men out there like that, and you can't call the police and expect them to do something or do their job. It's a sad day when, and let me say this, because like I said, I know a lot of APD officers, and there's no way they would have got a call like that and didn't handle it. It's a sad day when politicians tell the cops not to do their job and leave these people out to fend for themselves. And there's this culture out here now where we want to side with criminals and be easy on them, but be hard on the cops. And when you foster that type of culture, that's what you get. The guys that's supposed to be protecting us, if they're not able to handle those situations, if we make them afraid to handle those situations, if we make them afraid to stop things before they happen, this is going to continue to happen. And that's where we're at now. We punish and we prosecute cops for preventing things. Classic example. I'm gonna throw this in there just for the hell of it. Remember, I was prosecuted for using a restraint chair to restrain people I knew had the potential for violence. All right. No, you shouldn't do that. Okay, good.
No.
So they stop. So they stop it.
Right.
Now 7 men are dead, not assaulted, dead. We've never had a murder in the jail before. Well, at least we didn't have a murder while I was sheriff, because we had things in place to prevent people that showed the potential from violence from being able to carry it out. One just got killed yesterday. That's the 7th. More people have been killed in the Clayton County Jail now, murdered, than in the Fulton County Jail. Whoever thought we'd see that day happen? But they were more concerned with inmates sitting in a chair. Oh my God, you sat in a chair. They weren't concerned with the people that would they, like for instance, nobody was concerned with the 80-year-old woman that's in a wheelchair that got punched by one of the guys that we had to put in a chair. Right. No, don't even let her come to trial. We just want to hear from the guys that was in the chair. Well, look at this situation here. We don't want to disturb these guys. They're just walking around with rifles, they're just trying to vent and whatever. Let's just make it an autonomous zone. And now we get an 8-year-old killed. We don't want to offend nobody. I know they threw a water bottle at the police chief. Just let them vent. Just give them room to destroy, as we once heard. And that's exactly what they did. And think about it. When you give criminals that type of break, when you work with them, this is how they thank you. By them not, and remember, right before this, APD said, okay, we're no longer chasing criminals. We're no longer going to chase them. So now all the criminals in Atlanta knew that if I get in the car and drive off, the police can't chase me. One of them did it and didn't realize he was in Clayton County. And actually
Clayton ain't gonna stop.
Right. And told one of my deputies, hey, you're not supposed to be chasing me. They said, hey, that's Atlanta. That's not us. When you give them that type of whatever they're given, let's be sympathetic, let's love them, let's kiss them, or whatever. That's what they did. All of the criminals that they conspired with in the jail, how are they being thanked? Hey, let's start killing and stabbing people and gang raping people and selling drugs in the jail. That's the thanks they got for rescuing 6 violent criminals. And for being light on these guys, the thanks they get is a dead 8-year-old girl.
I got to say, man, we know that I've done 16 years straight. I've seen a lot. I've been to Hall County Jail, Fulton, DeKalb, Clayton a couple of times, Cobb. I've seen people get set in that restraining jail, man. You the first person in history I done seen go down for it. Like, I literally seen Hall County, the same things that they were saying, and strap a dude in the chair for hours. I just don't get it, but they like, and now they done got you out of, none of this was going on. They done got you out of office. And now people are dying left and right. You might go in there for a traffic ticket and don't make it out.
Correct. Correct.
Correct. And that did happen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So it's crazy, man.
I
It's
think that
crazy.
this case in Atlanta with this 8-year-old victim and you know her mother and family are victims too, because like the judge said, they got to serve a life sentence without. This is a classic example of what happens when we get people in power that they think the way to become popular is to be soft and nice to criminals. Be soft and nice to criminals and be hard on the cops.
Mhm.
It's not working. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that cops should have a green light to do anything, because if it did, I don't think nobody fired more deputies than I did.
Oh,
Okay,
cleaning
right.
house, cleaning
Exactly.
house. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. There were some things that happened, hitting people with handcuffs on or whatever. Anybody's welcome to do an open records request. You know, I passed out terminations like the Easter Bunny was passing out candy when I had to. But at the same time, it was unnecessary stuff, hitting people with handcuffs on, whatever. But I never stopped them from doing what they needed to do, as long as it wasn't somebody that was already handcuffed or something that was just way out of like putting a gun to a guy's head and telling him get in the car. The guy's already handcuffed.
Mhm.
But that's craziness. But as far as trying to Monday morning quarterback on them every time they have to put hands on somebody or every time they have to do something, you can't do that, because you're sending them to deal with violent people. Should they put guns in people's head with handcuffs on? Of course not. Should they hit people with handcuffs on? Of course not. But when they got to deal with a group of violent people, you can't Monday morning quarterback every single thing they do, or everything they were trained to do by policy and by state training, suddenly make it illegal because you think it can get you brownie points with the media or get you appointed to a position.
Well, listen, the cops couldn't come down University Avenue because they were too busy around Keisha Lance Bottom's house because she was facing a ton of threats. So all the cops was surrounding her house, making sure something didn't happen to her.
That's a good point. This is a very, very good
I'm
point.
just saying.
That's a
I'm just
very
saying.
good point.
Yeah.
Well, when you are part of the city and you create these type of permissive postures that then turns into a powder keg, I don't want people to miss out on that. Criminal guilt in this case erases any type of policy failure,
Absolutely.
because that's exactly what this is all about. That somebody made a decision from up top that created this whole nonsense. And if you let the state, you know, let's just do this. If the state lets any armed barricade control a public road, is the state an accessory to whatever happens next? Civilly, absolutely. And that's what we should be doing on that end of it. This is policy failure versus personal responsibility, right?
And just plain leadership failure. I
Yeah.
mean, let me tell you something. I don't think any mayor in their right mind should be comfortable with guys holding a road check, thugs holding a road check. I mean, how do we even know the guns are stolen or whatever? This needs to be checked.
Mhm.
How do we know who these guys are? Are they already, convicted felons or whatever like that? You don't even know. It's just, hey, let's not say nothing. Let's not do nothing. The sad part about leadership now, especially in law enforcement and especially politicians who are over law enforcement leaders, they want to punish you for doing something. Right. You do something, you get punished. You see what I'm saying? So, but really we should be punishing people for not doing anything. And part of the reason that we were so effective in Clayton County is my guys knew they would get punished for not doing something. I explained to everyone, I don't care what your assignment is. You could be a court deputy or whatever. If you ride down Riverdale Road and you see 4 or 5 thugs standing in front of a store,
It's your job to stop.
exactly. If don't let me see you pass it by. If you see a woman tire flat, don't pass it by. If you see something suspicious, don't ever say, well, I'm assigned to court. That's my job. I'm assigned to this. Anything you see, you will get punished for me for passing it by. You passed a woman by with the tire flat, you pass that by, your job gonna pass you by. And those were my exact orders. Right. You should punish for not taking action, because when you take action, you can prevent worse things from happening. But now we're punishing our officers civilly and criminally for taking action. And even if they follow policy and training, they're still being punished. And thus we have this chaotic situation that we have now.
Right. And they had everything to stop anybody in that situation. When you impede the free flow of pedestrian or vehicular traffic, you are obstructing.
You're
We
breaking
can
the law.
go there and handle business. We're checking everybody. Who set this up? That's why you get permits at the city. So you can go ahead and protest peacefully. But you be damned if somebody wants to go ahead and control a whole city block or even a road like that. This was completely an epic failure. Everybody failed.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree.
Everybody failed, because I mean, it's not like you said. As soon as they called 911 and they found out that the road was barricaded and it wasn't law enforcement that barricaded it, you're supposed to get out there immediately and see what's going on.
That shouldn't have lasted an hour longer
I
than that
agree. That couldn't
911
have.
call. And if
Yeah.
they got there and these guys were that armed, set up a perimeter, don't let anybody through, activate SWAT and get them there, and then let them do it. It should have ended that day,
Right.
Yeah.
if not that hour.
I agree.
Yeah. I found out I was the only bus that was going through, that they was letting through. Why they was letting me through, who knows? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I don't even think the rest of the buses was even coming down the street.
Right.
So
and that's another thing. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
doing that. I mean, come on now. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been handled in 2 seconds flat. And I
Right.
agree with my brother. You would go ahead and put SWAT in there. I know if I worked patrol on there,
Mhm.
that would have been the first thing. I mean, I let my command know, hey, guess what? I just want to go ahead and let you know, and how serious it was, and just go ahead and do. I just can't understand now that we have a child that should be 13 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
A teenager. Yep. And the same lady that failed is running for governor. What are they? What? You went away. Why did you stay gone? Now you want to try to double back and run for the governor of the state of Georgia. You couldn't protect the city. Now we got to task you with protecting 159 counties. Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
I don't see that happening, so we can rest easy.
No. Right. Nah.
Right.
Nah. No. Yeah. No. Well, I mean, because truth be told, I had forgot about her.
Mhm.
Like, she had faded off into the sunset. I forgot about it, and then she, a couple of weeks ago, announced that she wants to run for governor. So, okay, whatever.
Yeah. We'll see it. So
Pay
I'm
the
confident in
Turners.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, pay the Turners. That's what she need to do. She need to be coughing some money up, paying the Turners for the daughter that's not here.
Sure.
Yeah,
And I believe that they have a civil suit against the city on
they
that.
do.
I
They
don't
do,
know
because
if
one of
it's
they,
still ongoing, right?
yeah, one of the they lawyer contacted me. I think you seen him at the press conference when they was on the steps right after he got sentenced.
Mhm.
Bald head guy, I can't remember his name, but yeah. And when he reaches out to me, whatever they need from me, they got it. Because again, these guys, when they took away, and this might be going against what Victor's saying, but when they took away prison justice, I don't know. Some of these cats need prison justice. Sometimes it needs to happen. Because this guy took the innocence of a young 8-year-old child. There should be no limit to this dude. Anybody that had involved involvement with this, it shouldn't be any limitations whatsoever. You get what you get.
Right.
Because she got what she got.
Mm-hmm.
And the family paying for that every day.
He will, though.
Well, let me say, I didn't know they took prison justice away because they have no controls over the jail. And where I was, there was a lot of prison justice going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, though?
You can read about it in the book. They were very interested. The things that happened to folks that broke the code or whatever. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can tell you this: I know for a fact it still exists because
maybe in the feds.
In the feds,
but in the states, it's so many of them in there that's the same. Ain't no justice going on. They all the same. They all basically in there for damn near doing the same thing.
I see what you're saying. What you're saying. And maybe, who knows, maybe I was in a unique group of folks there because you know, they I mean, if you got caught stealing, they handled it. It was very interesting. I had to write a whole chapter on it. It was, you know, in a
I saw that. Yeah.
So
one of them, I mean, you know, that's one of them unwritten rules. Because I mean, when I first went in, it was like that. Oh, it was like that. And you know, a lot of times it was stuff getting handled if they found out you snitched on somebody. You know what I'm saying? Which that's another thing that I that needs to be to rest, because you know, this whole culture of don't snitch and all that stuff is fake. It don't exist. We saw that with the YSL trial. Damn near everybody concerning that trial, they wanted to blame one or two people, and then we find out later on all of them was talking. You know, you know what I'm saying?
I can tell you this: I spent 10 years in robbery homicide, and I don't remember somebody saying, "I ain't saying nothing, send me to prison for life." That never happened. I think pretty much knew that was a myth when John Gotti's crew was telling on each other. I think people pretty much figured the romanticism of not snitching didn't exist, or this is not for real. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's romanticized. But I can tell you this: when people sitting there and they're facing life they don't have to be facing life. A dude could be facing 5 or 1 year, and you'll be surprised how quick. Not only will he say something, but he'll lie on somebody else if he think it could get him out. So if those dudes existed, that was probably back in the 30s or 40s before we were born.
It don't exist.
I didn't see I didn't see them during my career. Yeah, I did. Maybe you saw something different in Baltimore, Jerome. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a little bit different.
And everybody want that, you know, that not snitching until it happened to your daughter, or until it happened to your sister. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Until it happened to your grandmama. Your ass wants somebody to step forward and tell the story then. You know,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
So, you know, what do y'all think? We've identified the problem. We've identified the lack of leadership. What's the solution? What do you think the solution is to this?
Step one: put this man in Congress. That's the first step.
Thank you.
Put him in, get him in Congress. That's step number one, because I'm gonna be right behind him in a minute. And you know, the solution is prevention. You know what I'm saying? Trying to talk to people. I had this thing where I feel like the education system is failing everybody, is setting everybody up for failure growing up, because a lot of things, a lot of real life scenarios and a lot of real life situations that go on, if we started in kindergarten, when kids start throwing temper tantrums about what they cannot get, if we started anger management every year, you got to take some type of anger management all the way through the 12th grade. You get people to think about what they do before they do it, because you got people that build an entire life and throw it away in 5 minutes from being angry.
That's a very good point, and that's a very good idea. You know, you just made me think of something too. You know, I was talking about how it's cool to prosecute cops, but remember this: these type of folks we're talking about empowered, they just didn't make it cool to prosecute cops. They're prosecuting teachers. God forbid if a teacher does something, you know. And there's this thing, I don't care what the child did, you shouldn't have done this. If you're the police, it doesn't matter what he did, you shouldn't have done that or whatever. And it's so interesting about this group of people and that type of thinking, because they're quick to tell law enforcement and teachers and parents what they shouldn't be doing, but yet they don't have an alternative. You know, you hear these people, they're quick to talk about don't send troops to Memphis, but they don't have an alternative. Okay, well, if that's a bad idea and it's so wrong on this level or that level, what's a better idea? And then usually they come up with these answers about programs or what. Well, we've had programming for years now. Okay, so we're not talking about what you're talking about. Well, hey, let's start with the kids young and teach them anger management before it comes. We're talking about a situation that's already out of control. So you're saying no, don't bring the National Guard. Okay, well, what do you want to bring exactly? What's the alternative? And they can't give you an alternative.
I agree with it. Everything that's going on, Memphis, Chicago, and all these big cities, I agree with what Trump is doing. I agree with it wholeheartedly, because Chicago has been this way all my life. I'm 50 and it's been like that all my life. It's not working through numerous administrations. No, you got y'all need some help. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna tell you one thing too. Making a new law is not helping. People know that everybody knows that you get a license if you take somebody's life. Everybody know that. Is it stopping people from doing it? No. It's not stop. It's not. There's still, you know, DUI. You're gonna get locked up. Your license gonna get suspended. Is that stopping people from driving drunk? Absolutely not. New laws is not. That's not the answer. That is not the answer.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, because nobody does it. Hey, there's a new law. Let's whatever. I mean,
let's stop what we're doing.
Yeah, let's stop what they're doing. The only thing that stops them from what they're doing is the enforcement of the law. And you know, that's the only thing that really, really works. You know, there's been laws against drugs for years, but people still sell drugs. The reason I was able to stop it was I put sheriff's cars in front of the drug house so they couldn't sell drugs. I had to stop it. It wasn't the law written out there that made people like, you know what, I'm gonna stop selling drugs, because they're giving more time for drugs now. It wasn't until sheriff's cars were there where they could not sell the drugs that they stopped doing it. And that's how we were able to move the drugs out. And it actually kind of worked out, because if they were smart, they at least they didn't go to jail. I know they weren't happy about it because they weren't making no money, but they had to move someplace else. Well, here's the thing. That's true of all this other stuff. Why the National Guard is not there to police? They're there to stand guard. They're there to occupy the area so people can't do it. So would you argue, when you got these crazy people coming into schools shooting people, why would you care if the National Guard was standing outside the schools? I would much rather them stand outside the school than my niece or nephew getting shot.
DC is a test case. Ever since they took it, there's not been one murder. None. Now the mayor of DC was like, well, we don't need this because crime is at its all-time low. What's better than 5%? Zero.
Exactly.
Okay, zero. It
exactly.
Works.
Exactly.
So what's wrong with that? I don't know what the pushback is against that. I don't know.
But it's these same type of folks that are in power, especially prosecutors and certain mayors and stuff like that, and they got a reason why they don't want that to happen. Just like the folks that had a reason why, well, we don't want the restraint chair used unless the person is uncontrollably violent. That's not what the law says. And by the time they're uncontrollably violent, someone's already assaulted or dead. So then it's too late. So what good is it? So maybe we need the National Guard in the Clayton County Jail now.
It's possible. It'll be safer.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Look, if you don't want to get restrained, don't get in the situation where you had to put your ass down in the chair. Don't get in that situation. You don't like what
Exactly.
happens in jail, don't get in that situation.
But
It's that simple, really.
but you're right. But this is where it gets real funny.
Mm-hmm.
You're right about that. But the
Mm-hmm.
people who came up with the idea, they should know how to better run the jail. So if the way the jail was being ran then it was wrong, even though there was no drugs, no killings, clean discipline, your idea should work better. Now that you've come in and saved 6 violent inmates from being restrained, if that's what you thought you did, the jail should be running a whole lot better now. No one should be getting killed or whatever. And if you look at it on the streets, if these folks was right, we shouldn't have an 8-year-old that lost her life. If the key to it is no, don't call SWAT, no, don't put on riot gear, don't stop this from getting out of hand when a water bottle's thrown at the chief. Just be nice, just get wet a little bit. It's okay, let them vent. If that truly works, then why did the city go up in flames? Why is an 8-year-old dead?
Oh, they told a CNN center all that whole area.
Yes,
I
they
was out
I
did.
there.
remember that. Yeah.
I was out.
Yes, they
Look, I
did.
was driving the bus and I had to stop the bus because the road was blocked. So I got a front view of everything. And I'm just sitting in the bus and watching everything go down. Like they tore that area up. It's yeah, nah. Listen, the way you ran that thing, man. And I was a resident of Clayton County for a lot of years. Like I said, I think I voted for you 2 times. One for sure, but
Thank
I
you.
believe it was twice. And but I didn't have to go in there to know what you was doing because they heard. It is people get to Clayton County and turn around and go the other way because they know Victor Hill gonna get on your ass. You know what I'm saying? And that's how this thing here got to be ruled with an iron fist. We tried to compromise. Compromise got an 8-year-old child gone. And
Absolutely.
lately, the other day in Cobb County, a 9-month-old, it's been a few kids then got unalive lately. It's been a few. It's been about 2 or 3, I think, in the last week. So all this nice guy and we can't do this and we can't do that. You can't do that. Bill Belichick got 7 Super Bowl rings by running stuff with an iron fist. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's how it gotta be
Absolutely.
ran. You don't want to get in trouble with the justice, with criminal justice. Stay out of trouble. Stop breaking these people's law. It's that simple.
You know,
I'm just saying.
you're right. I mean, we're talking about common sense. We're talking about people who need to have more competence, right? So there's
Yeah.
things that you take a look at in your life and you could say, hey, guess what? You can model best practices off of it. So I want to go ahead and talk to you both about this. So when we take a look at airports, right? You don't see airports. They don't let untrained people run checkpoints. Why do the fucking cities have to do that?
Right.
You don't do that. You have examples of what works and what doesn't work. And nobody wants to model off of that. You have TSA who's been trained, will go ahead and do that. You wouldn't think or imagine the airport doing some nonsense like that. So why in the hell would you let untrained citizens go ahead and do that?
It doesn't work.
It does. It not only doesn't work, you know, the sheer stupidity, the incompetence, and you have attorneys that are supposed to be advising. Sheriff Hill, you had attorneys there that gave you advice about law, about this, and so on and so forth. The same type of competency they should have had on their side. They completely dropped the ball. You should pay the penalty for it. And most cities do have an incompetent people there, and they wonder why they have to pay out all this insurance money for these incompetent idiots walking around here. So that's my take on it. That's ridiculous.
You know, you're absolutely right. And one thing I want to get your advice and counsel on this, Gerald. Here's another thing. You know, this no bails bond and how bonds is right. Now, every city that's done that, hey, just come in and sign yourself out and go back to jail. I tell you what, we're not going to lock you up for this. Just sign a ticket. And we see leaders doing stuff like that, and they feel like they're doing such a great thing in the community, like recently in Clayton County. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that weed is a major issue, but
Mm-hmm.
when you say, well, hey, let's make it so that they could just sign a ticket or whatever, okay,
Mm-hmm.
why all of this effort to make things easier on people breaking the law? Why not make it things easier on the people who are obeying the law and making it safer for them? Why all this coddling of, well, hey, it's just this, don't take him to jail, hey, well, let him sign himself out or whatever. And you know, and that's the type of leaders we got now, and they feel
Mm-hmm.
that they could be some type of hero. You know, I remember this. Joe, do you remember when the speed races came to Clayton County, and I think I locked up about 88 of them, right?
Right.
Do you know,
Yeah.
right after my suspension, uh the chairman of the county, they had an event where they put the fire trucks around and they allowed people to come and spin out. Like, it was almost like, hey, he's gone now, we support you, you just want to spin out. And how did they thank them? They've been taking over streets in Clayton County, spinning out whenever they want. They didn't say, hey, you know what, thank you, can you have another event for us? They've been, I mean, they took over a intersection in Riverdale not too long ago. Again, you know, you see all of this stuff. Hey, just sign a ticket. Now you got more shootings. You see all of this. Hey, you know, we're not going to do this anymore. I'm going to get on TV and cry. And what they do, they stab people in the jail. So if all of this stuff works with trying to, like you said, compromise with thugs and criminals, when is it going to start working?
This right here is not gonna work. Cashless bill got that lady stabbed on the train in
Yes.
Charlotte.
Yes.
It does not work. It got the crime through the roof. California, we don't even see all of the videos that's actually happened where they going in with the smash and grab. Jewelry stores taking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. If they get caught, they just gonna sign themselves out. And then it's right back to organizing and going back to do it again. It's crazy. And it's a very bad look for the judicial system. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And look, we tried it. You know, now the reason why we got to that point is because some people get locked up and they be there for months. Some be in the county jail for years for simple things and stuff like that. So I guess that was the
That's a
basis for
good point.
trying. Yeah, that was the basis for trying to okay, we'll do cashless bail. That's not working. Yeah,
Right.
that's not
Well,
working.
that wasn't. Let me tell you what the
Yeah.
answer is to that, though. That's a good point that may have
Mm-hmm.
came up. I spoke to a mother today whose son has been in the Clayton County Jail for 5 years, and according to her, he has all misdemeanor charges.
Oh my
And
God.
so, exactly.
Yeah.
But you got a good point. Let me tell you this:
Mm-hmm.
the answer is not no bail. The answer is people doing a better job. If we quit spending time going after, spending millions of dollars to go after Young Thug and the president, then you wouldn't have people in that Fulton County jail this guy was in jail 5 years before he went to trial. So
Before
you
he
got
went to
all of
trial,
that,
yeah.
right? You got all that backing up the system. Then also you got to get people to do their jobs. You know, I used to have situations where there's a man in jail and he's in there 10 days longer than he should be. Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
someone's not paying attention. So what I started doing was suspending those people for the amount of days a person stayed there. If he got to stay in jail 10 extra days, you getting suspended for 10 days, because that's 10 days he could have found a job. That's 10 days he could have done whatever. If we
Mm-hmm.
actually do the job and be more attentive,
Mm-hmm.
then folks won't have to stay in jail unreasonably long times or whatever like that. It has nothing to do with the bail. It has to do with folks not doing their job and concentrating on doing everything else.
I'm gonna tell you what they did in New Orleans. This was in the 90s, so I don't know if they still do this, but they had it to where 60 days you had to indict or you had to release. Get them in there. Like if you needed a more time, I think you can file for a 30-day extension or a 60-day extension. But after 120 days, if you ain't put your case together, they was cutting people loose. You know, it's nowhere in the world that somebody that's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty in a court of law should be sitting in the county jail for 5 years.
Even if it's a felony,
Even if
it
it's a
shouldn't
felony.
be
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. County jail life is 5 years in the county jail is probably equivalent to about 11 or 12 years in a state prison. That is the roughest life that you're gonna possibly face. Prison is not even as rough as the county jail is. Like, for real. Yeah, because it's no contact with the outside public. At least in a state prison, you might get you a visitation where you can hold hands with your wife or anything. Ain't none of that in county jail. You know what I'm saying? And that's a pretty rough life, man. So yeah, cashless bail is not working. And I'd be glad when they do away with it. You want cashless bail, real cashless bail? Don't commit the crime. How about that? Stay your ass out, or you get what you get when you get put in there. That's how I feel about it.
And let me say this. I want everybody to understand, especially someone joining us later. We're talking to a man that spent 16 years in prison. This is a man that I've spoken to, not just on a show, but we've had private conversations.
Mm-hmm.
He's taken personal responsibility. He never said I didn't do it. He said, yeah, I did it. I served my time. Now I'm ready to move on with my life.
That's it.
Raising a family, beautiful wife, beautiful daughter, son probably getting ready to be president if he keep on the path he going on. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
it. Yeah.
And he's saying, I want law and order. I want to live in a peaceful. I don't agree with folks running around with rifles, holding road checks. I don't agree with whatever like that. And if someone did something to my family, I would want someone to say something. He's not talking about, hey, I did my time, no snitching and all that craziness. Man, talking about law and order. I think it's more powerful coming from you than anybody else, because you've been on the other side, and then you grown, you matured. And that's another thing we're going to talk about in the future too. You paid your dues to society, so why can't you have all your rights back? And that's another show for another time.
Woo, yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to land the plane with this.
Sure.
And and I want to make this very strong and clear as we close. First of all, our deepest condolences to the Turner family.
Yes. Yes.
The real injustice I see moving forward is pretending that this was a one-off or this was just on that guy. That's would be the real failure on this, because we're going to look at the abyss of another child. We're losing another child. This was also the city's fault. And there should have been some type, and maybe there is with this civil lawsuit that the family's having against the city. But we cannot miss the point that the city created the environment for this to happen. And because of that, weak leadership, mismanaged leadership on all levels, that this is the real injustice that happened, that we now don't have a 13-year-old child. And we cannot pretend that this is just one man's crime, because
it's
so
not.
many other people involved.
It's not.
That's
And that's
exactly
how I
right.
want to land this plane.
It's
because
not.
so many people were involved in this.
And you tell Miss Turner, tell her she's welcome to use that book, I document when I found out about it, who I notified about it, and tell her if they need me to show up in court, I'll gladly be there.
Absolutely, yeah.
She can count on me.
Yeah, yep, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I will get the message across.
This shouldn't even be a fight. They should be running to the settlement table with this one.
What do y'all want? It should be what y'all want. What can we do to make this right?
Right, because it's something that you can't truly make right, but how can we, it should be accept responsibility. It was a clear negligence of duty. And I'll say it again. I don't care who don't like it. It's not just the city, but whoever was a sheriff at that time, I said his name, they're all responsible because they should have done something. I don't care if they like it or not. The truth is the truth. She can count on me to come up there and testify to what I know about it and what I know about what should be done when situations like that happen. I'll be there. And those who don't like it, we all know how I feel.
I look, I asked both of y'all. Both of y'all got about what 50 years in law enforcement or something like that.
I'm not that old. Jerome might have about 60. I don't know. But
always the light skinned guy gets
damn.
Always.
Neither one of y'all can tell me what an autonomous zone is.
That's made up.
I do not. When that detective said that, I do not think that was supposed to get out. I don't. Hopefully they pay attention to that.
Let me tell you what it is.
Yeah,
it's some BS that some politicians that want to shirk their duties and don't want to do nothing because they're afraid to take action. That's what an autonomous zone is.
Yeah,
it's some BS. The minute that came up, law enforcement should have been allowed to handle it.
Right.
And if they didn't handle it, someone at the top should have been punishing them for what handling it. It should have been for every hour that road check is there, you about to get suspended or get out of here. It better not be here when I wake up in the morning.
And Gerald, please,
yes,
extend to Ms. Turner that if she ever wants a platform to speak about these matters.
Oh, absolutely.
We will definitely embrace her here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm
For
sure that, you know, when the dust settles and so on and so forth, if she ever has that, we will give her the opportunity.
And let me say something else that needs to be said too, because Gerald said something that sticks with me. There were 3 other people there. They never found them. They never ID'd them. And you know, and the guy that they got, we know that he was there. We know he was shooting. No one can say for sure if he fired the shot because there's no shell casings. No one recovered the weapons. That's correct, Joe, right? No one has the weapons that was used.
Nobody has the weapons. They did recover some 5.56s and a 2.23. They did recover. They didn't get. They wasn't able to scoop up all the shells, but they got the shells from the spot where he was standing.
Right.
Right. Well, let me just say this. Let me say this. Somebody knows something. Now, when we talk about no snitching, we know that when people facing time, they snitch. But there's people out there who they're not facing any time, and they just kind of see something out the window and close the shades. I want to appeal to whoever knows who those guys are. And I want you to think that could have been your daughter. That could have been your niece. That could have been your mother or whatever. If you know who those killers are, I want to appeal to your conscience. Right. Because they need to get got.
I don't like people that do things to kids and elderly people. And I don't like the people that try to cover up for them, because you are just as guilty when you cover up for somebody that you know did something to a child.
Right. And let's not forget the prosecutors and judges who cover up for criminals when they cut them loose, when they've done stuff to elderly people just so they can go after a politician or a cop. They're not concerned with 80-year-old women in wheelchairs getting beat up at grocery stores. They're more concerned with people who, oh my goodness, did you sit in a chair? Oh my goodness, we got to help you. We got to drop your charges. They just as guilty too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So people, one thing I want to say, listen, and I didn't start really getting into politics until a couple of years ago. Know what you're voting for. And if them people not doing what you voted for, you need to get down to the polls and make a change. Right. Get them out of here. That is the only way that these problems are going to clear up, because we don't want to be in 2035 still talking about the same issues.
Right.
It shouldn't be like that. This is the same thing we was talking about in 2015.
Right.
We 2005.
We do ignore local politics. I
Yeah.
would implore people to go ahead and know about your local politicians, what they stand for, because this is the problem. You get these local politicians that don't do shit, and then you keep on promoting them, and then this type of nonsense happens. You have to, and you must. You have a civic duty. If you are involved, go ahead, make sure that the locals are good, and if they're outstanding, you promote them, not these half-ass brothers and sisters that don't know what they're doing, because that's when problems exist and they keep on festering, and then you got the mess we're in now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it can be your daughter one day, granddaughter, anything. Everything
Absolutely.
Jerome just said, it can ultimately trickle down to somebody that you love because you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Right. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and land the plane here. I just
All
wanted
right.
to go ahead and thank Gerald. Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you for coming
yeah,
on
hey,
today.
1,000 more times whenever
and
y'all
Yeah, we
ready.
gotta have you back.
Right.
For
I want you to
sure.
go onto his YouTube channel, at Xcon Media. Yes,
Xcon
Xcon
Media.
Media, and it's phenomenal. It's some of the things that he says that you're really going to make you think about how it's a different flavor, a different perspective, and we need that. We need that type of flavor. As usual, brother, do you have anything else to say on here?
No, I just want to thank Gerald. Also, we got to have him back because one thing he needs to talk about is gun rights and Second Amendments, and his knowledge of that is phenomenal. And then also this thing about when can a convicted felon have his guns back and why, and he has a story to tell that's phenomenal. That's a whole show in itself.
Yeah.
So let's
Appreciate
get
it.
that happening. All
Okay,
right.
let's go ahead.
Yes,
and do
sir.
that.
Thank
I
you.
want y'all to
Okay.
grab your like, subscribe. If you see us, definitely go ahead and do that. Also with Gerald's channel, Xcon Media, and we appreciate you. I know we got a little bit long in the tooth here with this conversation.
Could have went all night.
We really could have. We really
We
could have.
could have,
But
yeah.
we really
Right.
appreciate everyone, and we appreciate everyone that tuned in too. So without further ado,